Morning, everyone. My name's Leanne. I'm the administrator at the Dennis Hurley Centre. Although I've been working from home for almost a year, so that's quite strange. It's good to be able to attend the Hurley weekend, even if it is virtually. It's nice to be part of. I also have watched some of the videos on our YouTube channel this morning. Yeah, it's deeply moving to hear from the users and the beneficiaries of our programs. That was really good to hear. Thanks.
Thanks. Nomfundo, you need to unmute.
Morning, everyone. My name is Nomfundo. I am one of the trustees and the representative of the Emmanuel Cathedral Parish Council. So welcome. Nice having you all in our meeting.
Sipo.
Hi, my name is Sipo Pagati. I am a trustee and treasurer of the Dennis Hurley Centre since its inception. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth.
Hi all, I'm Ruth Birtwistle. I am the clinic coordinator of the clinic at the Dennis Hurley Centre.
Thank you. Hester. Hester, you need to unmute. While Hester's unmuting, Robina. Robina, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hello. Good morning, Robina. Hello. Lovely to see you. Please introduce yourself.
I'm the former chair of the Dennis Hurley Association in England. We decided to set up a branch after Stephen Tully came over in 2011, I think, and talked to us about the plans to build a new centre as a legacy to Dennis Hurley. And we decided to set up a branch in England so that we could take advantage of the very generous gift aid, government tax concessions, which the government gives to UK charities. And all the money that is raised by the association in the UK goes straight to Durban.
And congratulations to the Dennis Hurley Association, because they've just celebrated 10 years a couple of weeks ago. So
that's right.
Well done to Robina and the rest of the team for keeping it going. Hester, if you can unmute and introduce yourself. You're still muted, Hester.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hello, my name is Hester Joseph, and I'm a trustee of the Dennis Hurley Centre, a long-time trustee since 2013. I'm happy to be part of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean-Marie? We can't hear you, we can't see you, but we know you're there. Or maybe not. We'll come back to you. Ella, good morning. How lovely to see you. Can we see your picture and can you unmute? And can you say hello?
Hello to everybody. I've been associated with the centre from a very long time.
Thank you, Ella. A real honor to have you with us this morning. Jean-Marie, you back? Okay, maybe not. So this was billed as a Q&A, and we will do a Q&A, although a lot of people in the room are inside rather than outside. But before that, because this is Dennis Hurley Day, I'd like to ask those who personally knew Dennis Hurley if they want to share any short memories of him, because this is very much a day in celebration of him. And as I said at the beginning, for those who missed it before we started, once Dennis Hurley becomes Saint Dennis of Durban, this will be his feast day. So we are anticipating that by celebrating and honoring him this morning. So any memories of Dennis Hurley you'd like to share? Put your hand up so I so I can kind of keep some control. Mike, please, and then Ella.
Well, I had the distinct advantage of being a young priest working for him in 1980. He was fairly terrifying in some ways, but exceedingly welcoming. But you would, I remember he'd broken his foot and we had to go and see him in bed, so to speak. And he said, have you read the latest Hans Kuhn book on becoming a Christian? Well, it was that thick. It had come out about 2 months before. And of course I hadn't read it. So he proceeded to tell me he was much in love with Teilhard de Chardin. And I often got the story about how he just missed Teilhard as he went through Durban. And but he went down to, I forget the hotel, but it was a well-known hotel, and looked up Teilhard's signature in the register. But on a more personal note, he was an exceedingly kind and caring bishop. I was a young priest. I was the first parish I'd ever been in. And I got into all kinds of troubles with, choirs and that kind of thing. And I was having a particular trouble with the Inclisi, or the Ladies Association. And I told him about it and whatnot. And I mean, he was particularly useless as a pastoral man, in the sense of a parish. He'd never been a parish priest. He'd been in the cathedral. So if you really wanted pastoral advice, you went to Bishop Khumalo. But Hurley was concerned, and he got in a car on a Saturday afternoon, drove 150 kilometers to Ilanskop, just to have a cup of tea and say, how were things, and the rest of it. And for me, that kind of set the tone for my entire working time with the Archbishop. He was just wonderful, and always welcoming, always knew everybody and the rest of it. I mean, you all know that part of it. But as a young priest, he was splendid. I think that's all I've got to say, really.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And for those who aren't familiar, Teilhard de Chardin, the world famous paleontologist and also a Jesuit priest. I think he stayed at the Royal, and that was where Hurley went to see his signature in the visitor's book. I think Paddy mentions that in his book. Ella, would you like to share some memories of Archbishop Hurley?
So in my early days, I was a social worker, and this was sometime in the 1970s when the situation in the country was really bad. People were being removed from their homes. There was a lot of poverty and lots of problems that communities experienced. And I went to this home in the deep rural area, somewhere near the, there's a clinic, a Catholic clinic in the Amauti area. And I went there, and there was this elderly person with whom I was talking about her problems and so on. And then she went into her room and she brought out this little leaflet. And she said that this person here, and she was talking about Archbishop Hurley, is the most wonderful person. He's an incarnation of God. Because look at how, he has understood our problems and what he is saying to the community. This was the little leaflet in which Archbishop Hurley had written a little message. I can't recall everything, it was in the 70s, but a beautiful message of compassion, of understanding, and it really touched my heart. But what's beautiful is that this person in the rural area had read this and appreciated it, and she was treasuring that. So that story remained in my mind all the time.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. Jean-Marie, can you hear us? Can you speak? I know you have memories of Archbishop Hurley. I think Jean-Marie, I think you probably need to come next door to my office and let's share a Zoom here. Robina, did you know him personally?
I never did, no, sadly. I didn't no, I didn't know anything about him, actually. I had my family in South Africa are not Catholic, and I've just been moved by the stories of others, and particularly by Paddy Carney, whom I always used to visit when I came to South Africa.
Thank you. Jean-Marie, now you can see Jean-Marie and hear him. Jean-Marie, your memories of Archbishop Hurley.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Well, look, I got in this country in 2001 as a young refugee running away from Burundi. And I had nobody to sit my needs. I had no family here by then. And the only family that I had by then was Archbishop Hurley, who welcomed me in this country. And I couldn't speak the language, though. I couldn't speak English. So I spoke to him in French. And each time he would see me coming to his door, he would say in French, "C'est pitoyable," meaning it's a pity, as young men you are by your own. So Archbishop Hurley, I could say that were the only one that I could rely on, the only one who said, "Look, come, let me show you how to go about your programs." And eventually he brought us with another refugee from Congo to the old Privy Center. So a great man indeed, who has been there for me from day one.
And just to expand on the point about Hurley speaking French, there's an interesting dimension to that. So Hurley is a member of the Oblates. The Oblates, Oblate to Mary Immaculate, are originally a French foundation, and all Oblates had to learn French, whether they studied in France or not. And so when Hurley was at the Second Vatican Council, according to Paddy's book, one of the key roles he played was as an intermediary between the English-speaking bishops and the French-speaking bishops, because he was one of the few who could move easily between the two groups and join in the two conversations. So his proficiency in French proved to be invaluable in the work of the council. Hester, you of course knew him through Diaconia. Any memories of Hurley?
Yes, I have some memories. He was part of the panel that interviewed me when I applied for the job at Diaconia. But he was just such a gentle giant and just so humble. I remember giving him a lift once after a meeting from Diaconia to the cathedral. And there was this driver in the car in front of us driving rather erratic. And he had the fish symbol at the back of the car. And I was so angry saying, "Oh, Archbishop, just look at this guy, supposed to be a Christian. Look how he's weaving in the traffic." And he was quiet for a moment and he said, "Well, maybe he isn't a Christian. Maybe he just bought the car from a Christian." So he always saw the other side of things. And that always stood out in my memory.
Excellent. Ursula, do you remember Hurley? Did Hurley confirm you? Unmute, Ursula.
Yes, it was my confirmation, and so as a very young girl, I was intrigued by this gigantic man, and just his aura. He had an aura of authority and yet gentleness that comes with it. Great respect as well. So from a young person's perspective, he was just absolutely the father figure that we all needed in our lives at that time, particularly. For myself, I had lost my dad when I was 10, going on 11. So he did not play, Archbishop Hurley did not play a immediate role in my life, but definitely as a father figure in the church, he made an impact for me. So yeah, that's my memory. And also his funeral, what a dignified place, and everybody coming there to the stadium. And it was very sad when we had now our bishop passing away recently, Gabuza, and it's just such the two dynamics in terms of where we are now with COVID-19 and the celebration of death and the celebration of life in Archbishop Dennis Hurley's funeral, which was really the whole uniting of the church, from different perspectives and different spectrums of life. So I remember that very strongly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with memories of Hurley? I'm looking to the older members of the room. Kathy.
Mine are more from Holy Family perspective, because Hurley was a good friend of the Holy Family sisters. Bridget Flanagan worked with him, and they were great friends. Once when I was in Joburg, and he came to visit her when we had our community in Victory Park. And then I was a young sister then, and he heard that I was from Durban. So then he was asking me, I mean, he had a great sense of humor, but he was also very intimidating. He had just this presence about him. And so then he said to me, when you eat hot curry and you start getting hiccups, how do you try to control that? He says, what are you going to do to manage that? And I thought, now, what a strange question. I've just met this man and he's asking me about how do I control hiccups after eating hot curry. So I looked at him and I didn't know what to say. I don't know, drink water. And then he said, no. He said, you're a Durbanite, you should know. You got to bend over. I thought, oh, okay. And here's this tall man trying to show me how to control hiccups and bending over, kind of about half his height. So that experience of him stands out, and I've never tried to bend over when I had hiccups. I don't know what it would be like. But yes, he had a great sense of humor.
Excellent. Stuart, an Anglican perspective on Hurley?
I was trying to think back whether I did have any direct contact with him. I may have been at university when he addressed the university community up at University of, at that point, KwaZulu-Natal. But I can't directly remember any direct contact with him. I'm sure that somewhere in conscientious objectors and the university world, I may have crossed paths with him, but he didn't do anything spectacular to me, like make me bend over to stop coughing or something like that. So no major thing that I can remember.
Excellent, thank you. And of course, we're all here because of, either those who knew him personally, and many of us who didn't, we're here because of the continued inspiration of Hurley, and of course the role of Paddy Carney in both continuing his message and also being personally inspiring himself. So we've got some people who are from outside the Dennis Hurley Centre. I want to give you a chance if you have any questions about what we do, how we do it, any of the reports that were filed. If you haven't watched all the videos, don't worry, we're not going to test you, but if you've got any specific questions, I'm thinking particularly of William, Mike, Mary, Rabina, Ella. Jump in. Oh, Ruth's hand was up, sorry. Ruth, you have your hand up. Unmute.
Sorry, so I don't have a personal memory of Hurley, but it was quite strange because my dad was his altar boy. He was raised Catholic, so he knew Hurley very well when he was very young, and I distinctly remember when Hurley passed away because my dad was very upset. And like Ursula says, it was such a big celebration around his life when he did pass.
And of course, your father was involved with Hurley as part of the conscientious objection movement and the End
Yes, as well.
Conscription campaign, Martin Birchwhistle was a key figure in all of that. You were destined to be part of the Dennis Hurley Centre, Ruth, you realise, from before you were conceived.
Yes.
So any questions from our visitors? Mary?
No questions. I just want to say I watched your a couple of the videos this morning, and it's just amazing the amount of work that the Dennis Hurley Centre does, the connectivity. I thought the different videos were actually phenomenal for having, you know, from service providers, you know, people that one is working with, the homeless speaking for themselves, or patrons as well, interacting with trustees. You know, it was an interesting exercise. Somebody running another organization which admittedly is going through really torrid times, but it's a beacon of light that this is what is possible out there, and here's a gold standard that one can start aiming for. And I think it's, you know, it is just, one is doing things differently, and I think it's been a wonderful exercise, I think, for the Dennis Hurley Centre to do this visually and to have people from different sectors of the spheres of influence that one is involved in, and people that you interact with, participating in this weekend and in the virtual AGM. So thank you very much. It was very inspiring.
Thanks, Mary, for that. We're all learning from each other. Let me explain a little bit about Mary and I have connected as part of the National Homeless Network, the core team of which also includes De La Arp in Bloemfontein, who appears in one of the videos, John in Cape Town, and Wayne and Stefan in Pretoria, and Caroline in Pietermaritzburg. And Mary, actually, can you just say a little bit about the role of the National Homeless Network, particularly the way that we were connecting with each other during the hard lockdown and sharing what was going on?
Yes, you know, a couple of years ago, let me give you some background to the National Homeless Network. From my organization, we hosted the first event in Joburg of World Homeless Day, which falls on the 10th of October every year, and we connected with different people from different parts of the country to actually reflect what work is being done across the country, and Raymond took part in that, and Stefan from Tshwane, from Pretoria, said this is ludicrous that we don't actually meet as a national body. So the Tshwane lot organized for us to meet the following month, and that was in 2017. And we didn't call it a national conference; we called it a national conversation. And at the first meeting, we had the IEC present, so we worked together with them to see how the homeless could vote. The second meeting we had was with Stats SA, who were present at the first meeting and were horrified at the discrepancy, or just the complete variance in terms of numbers for the count. And we worked with them to reform and rework the upcoming census form. So in terms of advocacy, we've done in strides in 2 years. We then met in 2020 in Bloemfontein, in Magong, where we started looking more at our structure and what criteria it would be to become a member, and worked on a logo and decided we were still a movement and not an organization strictly, or an umbrella organization. And then ahead of the lockdown, we actually formed, from the Bloemfontein meeting, we'd formed a core team, of which Raymond and myself and a couple of others are part of. And we wrote to the president ahead of the lockdown asking for a specific response to homelessness in the event of a lockdown. And he mentioned it, stated it in his first family meeting or address to the nation. And it was declared in the Disaster Management Act that the homeless had to be sheltered. And as I said, as Raymond pointed out in his director's report, we literally had like 4 days to get organized. And we've, from the core team, we've met regularly throughout the lockdown, throughout the entire last year and started this year, to not only to support each other, to learn what each city is experiencing, what lessons learned, how we could help each other. And also we've done a fair amount of advocacy in writing to different people and it's had various spin-offs. I mean, through the agitation from us, we are interacting with the presidency at the moment, with responding to a series of questions, to look at this extremely complex problem and see how we can all work together. And maybe there might be a unit within the presidency dealing with homelessness. And from a Gauteng viewpoint, we've achieved within a year the first draft provincial strategy or policy on street homelessness. So we learn from each other, from what's happening in Swane, what's happening, experiences with the media, experiences with law enforcement, and that all led to us deciding that we would go ahead with a virtual annual conversation last year, and we explored various themes, and we had speakers from across the country taking part, and also the homeless themselves who were able to ask questions and take part. So I hope I've given you a hint as to what we do, and all I can say, it's an amazing network of people who are working in the space, in the homeless serving sector space, from different angles, from people involved in housing, from NGOs, from academia, from people within the faith-based communities, and we are growing apace. So hopefully we can eventually have national policy within a short space of time. Ever hopeful. Thanks, Raymond.
Thanks so much, Mary. And Bongani, you've been involved in the National Homeless Network. You've attended a number of the meetings. Give us your perspective on how it's working.
Simple matter, I think what is happening, Raymond, is giving a hope to the homeless, and the aim that now somebody, they are able to speak for them, because of we've seen in the past that they're not even listening to homeless people when they speak. But to have such organizations, and now at the national level, it takes us more, it gives us more graduate and more understanding that now at least the ways of the homeless people, it will be heard throughout the country, not necessarily only in the certain space or in a certain town, but at the national level. Because within the department, nobody wants to take the responsibility of homelessness. When you say it's DSD, they will say it's human settlement, and they will say it's this. But if we have this organization, we'll have one voice, and we are happy for that. That is what we attended.
Thank you, Bongani.
To finish off, my organization, Josh, we have on our masks the logo of the network, which gives people a lot of comfort that we're not just operating like rogue. We actually do belong to a bigger ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from our visitors? Anything you want to ask or comment on? Wave a real hand or a virtual hand.
Raymond, if I could just ask, Rabina, you are in the UK, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Maybe if you could give us some insight, because we are from the South African perspective. Is it possible just to tell us how you're operating there in the UK, representing? Can you just give us some insights, please?
Yes, I have to say that I'm actually not, after being on the committee for a large number of years, I actually resigned last year because of ill health. But the association in the UK is a very small body of volunteers who have tried to raise money for the centre, mainly by occasional events. For example, the year before last, we had an event in Birmingham Cathedral where our current chair, who is a musical director, worked with some school church choirs and organized a concert in the cathedral with the school choirs singing, including singing a South African song. And he also organized, Raymond came over and visited all the schools and talked to them and fundraised. And then we had a raffle at the event, and it raised about £2,000. The membership is very scattered around the country, so it's difficult, or it has been difficult up to now, to organize talks that are relevant to, that are accessible to everyone. But I am hopeful that with some of the techniques that have come into being, like Zoom, through the lockdown here, we might be able in the future to do more stuff online to reach a larger number of our members who are often fundraising in their own communities. Raymond's mother, for example, is a fantastic fundraiser in her area, raises a lot of money for us. But we need to find ways of bringing people together, and Zoom is one possibility for the future.
Just to expand a little on the connection with Birmingham. So Bernard Longley, who is the Archbishop of Birmingham, actually saw the half-built Dennis Hurley Centre when he was here in 2014. So Archbishop Bernard was on ARCIC, which is the long-standing conversation between the Anglican Communion and the Catholic Church, and they were holding a meeting here. Ella, I don't know whether you met him when he was here back then. So he was aware of the Dennis Hurley Centre. He was aware of Dennis Hurley, of course, because of his important role in ecumenism, in bringing Christian denominations together. And then we've connected more closely because Birmingham, like Durban, has a very substantial, a very influential Muslim minority. So he has been very intrigued and I'd like to say impressed by the way in which we work closely with the Muslim community, and that they're integrated in the work that we do, and is keen to see how Birmingham can learn from the example of what we've achieved in Durban. And one of the plans he has, which has been scuppered by COVID, is that he would like to send possibly a Birmingham priest or a trainee priest, a seminarian, to come and spend a few months in Durban, working with the Dennis Hurley Centre on the ground, so that he can take back to Birmingham some of the experience of being here. So it's a really strong twinning with plenty of opportunity to expand. William's just put up a link to Archbishop Longley. He appears on one of the videos. He's a most extraordinarily nice man. It's just so lovely working with him, and he really has a great heart and also a great vision. And I think he's one of the younger British bishops, so we look forward to working with him for at least the next 10 years. Whether he stays in Birmingham or might move further south to Westminster, which is a possibility.
Yes,
the other thing to say about the Dennis Hurley Association, sorry, Robina, is that in some ways its role is usefully passive. So by existing as a UK charity, it makes it very easy for anyone in the UK to make a donation to us in pounds, and we reclaim the tax benefit. And we saw that spectacularly this week when a woman none of us actually knew made a donation equivalent to 100,000 rand. And the reason was that her father used to give to the Zulu missions appeal that Hurley ran in the 50s and 60s, and she remembered how much her father cared about Dennis Hurley and the work of the church in Durban. And she found out about the Dennis Hurley Centre and the Dennis Hurley Association and made that donation. So simply the very fact that it exists means that it's well placed to receive donations. Sorry, Rubina, you were about to say something.
No, I was just going to say Archbishop Bernard is a fantastic character and very, very willing to listen. I was very lucky because I bumped into him. I'd known him when he was working in London very well, and he was a representative on another charity that I was on, and I happened to bump into him at a conference and discovered he was going to Birmingham, to Durban the following year, and mentioned to him the centre and sent him a whole pile of material. And he has become a convert and is very, very, very much very willing to do all he can to promote it. He was very, very impressed with what he saw, and I think we can count on him as a very good supporter into the future. It's also very helpful because the current chair lives in Birmingham, and so organising events in Birmingham is a much easier thing to do now. So we are hopeful. There was due to be another event in Birmingham last year, but of course it couldn't happen because of the virus. But we're hoping that if not this year, because we still don't know what's going to be happening, possibly in the autumn, but certainly next year, we'll be able to do another event in Birmingham.
Lovely, thank you, Robina. We've got 10 minutes left. I don't know if we have any other questions. I also want to open to everybody, if anyone has seen any of the videos, if you want to share anything which you found particularly inspiring, or anything you discovered for the first time, even people inside the organisation, anything new you discovered about the Dennis Hurley Centre. Again, wave a real hand or a virtual hand. Ella?
I think I went through the video and it was very, very impressive. A new way of presenting an annual report. And I thought that this was really so inspiring. It also gave a very good insight into all the work that the Hurley Centre has been doing over a period of time, and how it has grown from a little center that was built. We just saw the building and we thought there's a hall here and that's about it. But all the activities that have come in and what you've done over the years is spectacular. So I just want to congratulate you. Wonderful, wonderfully presented. And it's not just the presentation, it's all the work that really matters to people, meeting the needs, the real needs of the people. So thank you for all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella, and that praise is even more important to us coming from you. Thank you. Another hand. Robina?
I just wanted to say how impressed we in the UK are in the work that you're doing at the clinic. I mean, we're very impressed with all the work that you're doing, but we are so grateful for our National Health Service and all the benefits that we've had from that, which have been particularly displayed over the last year with the pandemic, and are so concerned about the lack of care for people in Africa and other countries, and the work that you have done in the clinic is an inspiration to us all about what can be done in a voluntary capacity and through working with the authorities. And so we would like to congratulate you very much on your work on that particularly.
Ruth, do you want to respond to that, please?
Thank you very much, Robina. That means a huge amount to hear. We are all very proud of the work that we are able to do through our clinic.
Ruth, could you say a little bit about how COVID has affected the work of the clinic in the last year?
So COVID changed the way we work to a certain extent, but certainly didn't impact our communities in the way that we initially feared. I think they have so many other things to worry about. COVID didn't quite top the list. So last year, all of our homeless guys were put into safe sleeping spaces at sites, and we were able to visit them there. Those sites have mostly shut down. There are still a few open. So during that time, we were taking the care more guys, but as of the past month or two, we are returning back to normality where people come into the clinic and we go out on the mobile and see some people.
Thank you. Anyone else was inspired or found anything new in watching any of the videos? Do I see any hands? Hester, you pop back up. Hester, please.
Oh, let me first put my hand down. I never know how to do this. I'm operating off my phone. Oh, well, there you go. Yes, I, as a trustee, even though I attend meetings and I'm involved, it is still overwhelming when I read the reports and I see the amount of work that is being done. And so as a trustee, even though we don't often get to interact with staff on a daily or weekly basis, I'd just like to say thank you very much to the entire staff for their dedication and for all the work that you guys do. It's just simply amazing. And you know, Paddy and Archbishop Hurley must be, wherever they are, smiling very kindly on all of you, and a very dynamic team. And thanks to Raymond as well for his involvement in sort of like the outside organizations of the DHC and the collaboration that you have. And I think this is what makes the Dennis Hurley Center such a success, in that in all departments you have people that go the extra mile and people that are dynamic. Jean-Marie, Errol, Ruth, Raymond, and all of those people that do sterling work throughout the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you for saying that, Hester. And of course, our Barry Wood Awards for Outstanding Service were presented a couple of days ago. The recording is among the videos. I won't spoil it for you. If you haven't seen it yet, then please watch the video. You'll see who got the awards and how excited they were to receive them. And at the beginning of that, an absolutely beautiful reflection by Bishop Sipuka from Umtata about the life of Bishop Barry and how much we can learn from Bishop Barry's commitment to the poor as well. So I strongly recommend that.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
So if we've got any final comments, I want to end by sharing the Hurley prayer. And if I use share screen, I can bring it up on the screen so we can all see it. And you have a choice whether you want to say it in English or Zulu. The two run side by side. I think the Zulu takes a little bit longer than the English. If you're doing it in Zulu, you'll need to say it slightly faster than the English speakers. So if you could all unmute, it's going to be a wonderful cacophony because the sound isn't coordinated, or it's not synced. So we'll all be overlapping with each other, but that's fine. The voices all go heavenwards, and I'm sure God can work out when the words are overlapping. So let's end up by saying together the prayer in honor of Archbishop Hurley. Loving Father.
Loving Father,
thank you
for the life, vocation,
and ministry
of your servant, Dennis Hurley, our bishop, brother,
and friend
in Christ. We pray that his work for justice and peace, in loving care for the poor and marginalized, and his vision for a reformed and renewed church may continue to inspire us with increased vigor. Grant that the gift of the Spirit may enable us to act in harmony, establish your kingdom in our lives, our work and our world, as we strive to follow Dennis' motto, where the Spirit is, there is freedom. Listen kindly to the intercession of your servant Dennis on our behalf, and grant us the favor of his patronage in your kingdom. We pray that in Christ your Son, all may be sanctified, all may be one. Amen.
Amen. And let the people say amen. I think we all began and ended together. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us this morning. Thank you to staff members. Thank you to trustees. Thank you to visitors from other parts of KZN, other parts of South Africa, and other parts of the world. It's wonderful that technology enables us to connect in this way. And for those who are further afield, I hope we continue to stay in touch with each other. For staff members, have a good and relaxing weekend. And trustees, we meet on Tuesday evening for a board meeting, yet again via Zoom. So thank you to you all. If you're planning a religious service over the weekend and you're not committed to somewhere else, then I do encourage you to watch the Mass celebrated by Father Ron Rollheiser from the Oblate School of Theology in San Antonio, Texas. So he offered a memorial Mass in honor of Hurley and his homily about Hurley, a brother Oblate, as you can imagine, is very moving indeed. So encourage you, and that's one of the videos on the list. Have a great weekend, and thank you to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Raymond. Thank you. Lovely to meet you. God bless.
Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, William. Bye, Robina. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.